Today we're going to be watching Ionator on Aya versus ADELEY Wolfie on Yuyuko. And she doesn't like to run Bloom because it's too strong. Okay, so this is something that Aya can do quite a bit. It's delay dropping to the ground. It's why hitting her with an air unblockable is so difficult, as seen here. There's like a million different ways that Aya can either slow her descent or stop it entirely. Her default 2-2 it will actually be a skill that she can use to just completely stop her descent. And J2A is kind of a weird hitbox that is basically designed to deal with people trying to hit you with an air unblockable, which is why this strategy works so effectively here. So something interesting about this combo ender is actually it works, but the reason why you use it, there are more like optimal combo enders that you can do into that 2 card, but this one is the one that works 100% of the time in every single instance. This is kind of infuriating, honestly. One of the dumb hitboxes that J2A will hit, it's a move that hits directly down and forward, but emphasis on the down. In that instance, an air unblockable move like Yuyuko's 2A or 4A is going to have an extended hurt box. Basically, her arm is going to be out a little bit, and it's going to just be punchable, or in this case, Aya can just step on it, and she does. She steps on it quite frequently. J2A, being hit by it never feels good. This was a very weird decision to me, because look at the HP gap right here. The only reason why you would ever use a spell card like this in neutral in this situation is to force a weather change, because every time you use a spell card, it will force to the next weather. Typhoon is a weather that you force if you have more HP than your opponent, or you believe that you can outdamage them in some period of time. If you think that this weather that makes it impossible to block is going to be a better choice, then you can force it by using a spell card exactly like this. But it doesn't seem like a very informed decision to me. Now this, this is a much more well-informed decision. This spell card, the Root Forbidden to the Man, basically I have 4 card, the neutral thing. It's so good in Typhoon because it's just a whole bunch of rocks that are just flying. any kind of neutral winning card is just going to be ungodly strong in Typhoon because you can't block. The whole way to beat these neutral winning cards is to block. And in this instance, you have to just graze them or just get hit by them, which is what we will see happen, I assume. Yeah, that went about as I expected. Ooh, I want to talk about this pressure here. So, one cool thing about this ender, so notice how it limits to 95%. That would totally have been possible, but look at how she Adelaide anticipates the air tech, goes and jumps up like she's going to use a J5A or something and do air pressure. Ionator expects that to happen, so Ionator, he blocks after air teching, which is the correct thing to do after you air tech in that situation. But Adelaide anticipates this anticipation and instead grazes back down, and that's why you saw this a little weird movement and it seemed like nobody was doing anything. It's because it was just kind of another level of pressure. So baiting the bait and then that getting baited is what leads to a very effective reset back to ground pressure, which is something that will lead to a lot more crushes and a lot more large combos. So here we have another weather manipulation. This happens quite a bit in this game, and by quite a bit I mean literally twice. Heavy fog is a weather that very much benefits you if you have less HP than your opponent. Adelaide uses the weather sword here to reduce that weather pattern quite a bit. It'll go away in a couple seconds. And the reason she does this is because there's an extreme health deficit on Ionator's part. So it's going to make it impossible to have that easy of a comeback. So look at how Adelaide approaches the pressure here. When you have a situation like Aya matchups, you have to think about all of these tools that she has to stop any air unblockable. And we've seen Ionator is not afraid to use them, as shown earlier on in this game. What we now have is Adelaide spamming bullets that basically will be anti-airs, because effectively that's what the Aya approach is to just use air to ground moves. So the counter to that are anti-air bullets, because when you're using a melee, you will have less range than a bullet, on average. It worked in this situation, and it's why the pressure was allowed to continue. This is kind of funny. So, if you anticipate somebody using a reversal, usually that's enough to not get hit by it. But I think this was actually like the correct decision here to block it anyway, because the border resists, which is just you got crushed and you're still getting hit afterwards, it is a proration percentage, which means that you are going to take less hits. It's why combos don't just kill you in one hit, because every time you hit somebody in a combo, it does progressively less and less damage. That's why resets are so important, because they let you just snowball pressure. In this instance, blocking it actually will reduce the damage, because I don't think that he really had the spirit to graze through that really effectively. So he just has to kind of eat the combo. And it was kind of a lose-lose situation. So, thoughts on that game. There was a lot of really good posturing from both players, I'll say. and I will say nothing more. So this is one of the most well-enjoyed pressure defense techniques enjoyed by mid-level players. It's the walk under into a combo. I see that happen. Once you learn how to do that, I feel like it's kind of an addiction on some level. It feels so good to just interrupt somebody's pressure and just hit them into a full combo, because generally that kind of a walk under is going to lead to your largest combo, because it's not a kind of defense that costs anything. Walking forward is free. You can do it anytime. Okay, now here we have the venerable technique called the angular slice. This was pioneered by a member of the Hisoten server named Splinter. It is one of the most powerful okizeme options out there, and I'm really happy to see it applied at such a high level here. So let's talk strategies. In Spring Haze, you can graze anything. Melees are turned into type 2s. I believe we talked about this last video with Yukari, and how Pinwheel just drains the hell out of your spirit. That is the same case with Yuyuko's J2A. Now, in this instance, neither player is really getting caught out necessarily by it, so they're both playing it really safe. If they think that they're in a bad spot or position, that they're going to eat either a really meaty melee that's just going to drain all their spirit, they're going to block. They're playing this weather out very, very carefully and cautiously. And I think it's a really good show of skill, that neither player is just going really ballsy about it. That was, that's a little bit of an awkward conversion. In this instance, the way that you can only end this combo is by using a 236, the default 236B, after the 6C as Yuyuko there, because the J8A is not going to hit low enough to limit, as we see here. Ah, haha, haha, look at the weather here. This is Typhoon on the clock, so spamming a spell card in neutral, even though it's not going to be to your benefit, will make it go to calm, and something immediately going to calm always means that somebody was terrified of Typhoon, which you should be if you are Aya in this case. This was a cool little neutral tidbit. If you are Aya and your opponent is Yuyuko, and Yuyuko is going up to the ceiling, you can be assured that she's going to drop down with a J2A. If you angle it right, like Ionator does here, you can use J8A, which has a more favorable hitbox if you space it right. And again there. So, the time bomb, which is that pink bunch of ghosts that is around Aya right now, that is such a terrifying spell card to be hit by. It's a ticking time bomb. After about 4 or 5 seconds, I forget, you're going to get hit by 4,000 damage. It's probably 4 seconds, because, 4 card, 4 seconds, 4,000 damage, 4 means death, yada yada. The cool way to deal with this card is there are a number of ways. So, one way that you can stop the 4 card from hitting you is to physically hit Yuyuko. You have to do some amount of damage. Blocking, chip damage, that's not enough. You have to actually do some damage. The other way is you can backdash it. When you backdash, you have a couple of iframes, as we call them. It is frames when you are invulnerable. Now, that frame data, it varies from character to character, so some characters are going to have it easier than others. Like Oku, for example, is going to have a much easier time than Remelia. I believe Remelia is like 2 frames, though it all depends on player skill, seriously. It's just a really hard link to backdash that and time it well. So we will see how Ionator deals with that. So at this point, we can be rest assured that by walking back, Ionator is planning on backdashing, and we will see whether or not he is successful. He was not. It's both smart and stupid at the same time. So the way that you kind of have to think about mashing is that if you have a gap in your opponent's string, you expect them to just do a reset, you can hit them and poke and use that to escape. The problem is that ADELEY actually big-brained this so much that she knew that after 2 hits, she would be spaced far enough away that the next 2A would whiff. And then she mashed. The other possibility is that she was just holding block and then didn't, and just kind of mashed 2. Which is totally feasible, it's totally fine, it's valid. Mashing is valid, you do you, as long as it wins. But if that was planned, that was incredibly smart. I don't have anything else to say about this set. It was really cool.